Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how we master the art of discussing habits and intentions in English. You know, that universal, sometimes frustrating, often incredibly rewarding experience of setting goals, making those New Year's resolutions with such hopeful enthusiasm. Trying to finally wake up earlier, consistently hit the gym, maybe meditate with a clear mind, or even stick to that new reading goal. We've all been on that journey, haven't we? It's a deeply personal quest for self-improvement. And what's fascinating is how the language we use to describe this journey can actually shape our success. So, our mission for this exploration then is to equip you with the precise vocabulary, the foundational grammar structures, and those natural everyday phrases you need to confidently and authentically share your own habit journey, your motivations, your struggles, your progress, and even encourage others along the way. Because it's not just about doing the habits, right? It's about articulating them.
That's such a crucial point, yeah. It's something I see all the time. What's truly fascinating here is that the language we choose isn't just about being grammatically correct or, using the right word. It can actually strengthen your determination, clarify your commitment, and even provide a framework for self-compassion when things get tough. When you can articulate your goals and challenges with precision and natural fluency, it makes that conversation about personal growth not just more authentic for you, but also more effective when you're communicating with others. It's really about empowering your personal expression in a very practical sense. It's almost like the words give form to your intentions, making them more real.
I love that framing, empowering your personal expression. Okay, so to really start unpacking how we talk about habits, we quickly realize it goes way beyond just a few obvious verbs like do or start. It requires a specialized vocabulary that captures all the nuances of discipline, motivation, consistency, and, those inevitable slip-ups. So let's kick things off by naming the habits themselves. When we're talking about specific actions people often strive for, you'll hear common phrases like exercising or the more casual working out, right? Also meditating, journaling, reading, whether that's fiction, nonfiction, whatever, waking up early, eating healthy, drinking more water. And then there are some really contemporary ones that reflect our modern lives, like digital detox or maybe limiting screen time.
It's incredibly interesting how those specific habits you listed, especially digital detox, really reflect the evolving challenges and aspirations of our time. 50 or 60 years ago, digital detox wasn't even a concept, let alone a personal goal. But today, managing our relationship with technology is a widespread ambition. It's huge. These aren't just trendy phrases. They point to genuine needs for balance and well-being. And as we talk through this, I really encourage you, the listener, to think about which of these habits, or perhaps others, you might be actively working on right now. What's on your personal habit-building agenda?
That's a great invitation. So beyond those specific activities, it's a whole universe of concepts that underpin discipline and motivation when we're talking about habits. These are the core terms that allow for truly nuanced conversations about the process of change. We're talking about words like habit itself, of course, but also routine, discipline, consistency, motivation, willpower, procrastination, setback, goal, milestone, and progress. These are not just synonyms. They represent distinct stages and challenges in the habit-building journey.
Exactly. And this is where the depth really comes in because each of these terms adds a specific layer to the conversation. Let's really dig into a few. Take consistency versus willpower. So many people kind of conflate these, but they're very different energies, right? Willpower is that initial burst of energy, that intense resolve you feel on Monday morning to finally start something new, say, a new exercise regimen. It's a finite resource, often driven by a strong emotional resolve. Feels powerful, but doesn't always last. But consistency is what happens when that initial willpower inevitably fades because, let's face it, it usually does. Consistency is the quiet, steady effort you put in day after day, even when you don't feel like it, even when the motivation isn't screaming at you. It's just showing up. Have you ever felt that surge of willpower on Monday, telling yourself, this is it, I'm going to run every single day, only for that feeling to completely evaporate by Wednesday, leaving you on the couch? That's where consistency or the lack of it becomes glaringly apparent. It's a difference between, a one-time heroic effort and sustained effort over time.
Oh, that Monday to Wednesday drop-off is so relatable. It really highlights how crucial it is to understand these distinctions.
Absolutely. And then consider procrastination and setback. Procrastination, of course, is that pervasive tendency to delay or postpone tasks, especially the ones we don't really want to do. It's a huge and very common challenge people face when trying to build new habits or even just maintain the ones they have. It's like the enemy of consistency. A setback, on the other hand, isn't the same as giving up or failing entirely. Not at all. It's a temporary interruption or maybe a reversal in your progress. Recognizing a setback for what it is, just a bump in the road, not the end of the journey, is absolutely crucial for making actual progress. Progress, after all, isn't usually a straight line, is it? It's often 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Maybe even sideways sometimes. Having the specific language to name these challenges, to articulate them honestly without beating yourself up, is the first critical step in overcoming them. It allows you to analyze, learn, and then, importantly, get back on track. For instance, being able to say, okay, I experienced a setback with my diet yesterday, but I'm not giving up on my goal of eating healthier, is far more empowering than just feeling like a failure.
That's incredibly insightful. It's like naming the beast allows you to understand it and then strategize against it rather than just being overwhelmed. And when we talk about taking action, we need specific action verbs and, perhaps even more importantly, those phrasal verbs you mentioned. We often hear phrases like to build a habit, to break a habit, to stick to a habit, to track progress, to give up, to cut down on, to work on, and to get back on track. These are the dynamic elements of our habit vocabulary, the words that describe the doing.
You've hit on something really important there. You'll notice some of these are single verbs, like build or track, which are straightforward. But others, and arguably the more expressive ones, are what we call phrasal verbs. A verb combined with a preposition or an adverb like give up or cut down on. Now, these compound verbs might seem a little tricky at first because their meaning isn't always obvious just from the individual words, right? But they add such a layer of naturalness, informality, and expressiveness to your speech that single verbs often just can't capture. They immediately convey the actions and processes involved in habit change, whether you're starting something, maintaining it, struggling with it, or, course correcting.
So true. They really make your English sound more authentic, more lived in. And that brings us perfectly to the grammar blueprint. Because language isn't just about knowing individual words. It's fundamentally about how we structure those words, how we build sentences to express what we do currently, what we have done, and crucially, what we intend to do. This is where some core grammar points come into play, and you might be surprised at how straightforward they are once you grasp their core function.
Indeed. It's all about precision, really. We need to be very clear about whether we're talking about something that's already an established part of our daily life, or something we're planning to start, or maybe even the general impact of an action. Each calls for a slightly different grammatical structure to convey the right meaning accurately.
Exactly. First up, let's talk about the simple present tense. This is your absolute go-to when you're describing actions that are already a regular, established part of your life, things that are routines, patterns, or facts about your daily habits. For example, you'd say, I meditate for 10 minutes every morning. Simple, clear. Or she tries to read a book every week. These aren't one-off events. They're ongoing, recurring parts of someone's life, showing regularity. It's like stating a fact about your schedule.
Right. The simple present is perfect for established routines because it conveys a kind of timeless, habitual, or regular nature. It tells us this action happens repeatedly as a matter of course, without necessarily specifying a beginning or end point, just that it's current and recurring. When you say, I exercise every day, it communicates that this is a present, continuous part of your life, not something you did once or plan to do in the future. It's just factual. So, I encourage you listening right now, pause for a moment and think about your own daily rituals, those established habits you already have. How would you describe them using the simple present? Perhaps, I drink coffee every morning, or my family eats dinner together at 7 p.m. Simple as that.
That makes perfect sense. It's about what is, what's happening regularly. Then for those brand new habits you're planning, or any future intentions related to your habits, we had the incredibly common and natural structure, going to. This is the perfect way to declare a new habit you plan to start, or any future intention that you've already decided upon. It signals commitment. You'll hear things like, I'm going to start waking up earlier next month, or we're going to cut down on junk food starting this week. It signals a clear plan, a predetermined decision.
Now, this is a crucial nuance, and it's where many learners, even pretty advanced ones, can make a common mistake. Many might be tempted to use will here, as in I will start waking up earlier. However, in English, especially conversational English, going to is much, much more natural and common for planned habits and intentions, particularly personal ones. Think of it this way. Will is often used for spontaneous decisions made at the moment of speaking. Like if I suddenly decide, oh, I'm thirsty, I will get a coffee. Or for predictions like it will rain tomorrow. It's less about a premeditated plan. But for a pre-planned, intentional effort to change or start a habit, going to carries that weight of prior decision and commitment. It implies you've already thought about it, maybe even made a concrete plan. Consider the subtle but important difference in implied commitment between I'm going to start running 3 times a week versus I will start running 3 times a week. The first implies a thought-out plan. Maybe you've already looked up routes or bought running shoes. It sounds more solid. The second could just be a spur-of-the-moment declaration, less concrete, maybe said with less conviction. For building habits, that sense of premeditation conveyed by going to is really vital.
That's a fantastic distinction. It really separates a fleeting thought from a concrete plan, doesn't it? The weight feels different. And sticking with grammar, we have gerunds as subjects. This is where you use a verb with an ing ending, but you're using it as the subject of a sentence. It's a really elegant and powerful way to talk about the action itself as a concept, or to discuss the impact or benefit of a habit. For example, instead of saying, it is good to wake up early, which is fine, you might say, waking up early gives me more time for myself. See how waking up early is the subject. Or exercising is the best way to relieve stress. Again, exercising is the subject.
Yes, this structure is absolutely essential in English, and mastering it makes your speech sound incredibly natural and, frankly, more sophisticated. Unlike some other languages, English sentences generally need a subject. That's a core rule. When you're talking about an action as a concept or as a thing that does something or is something, a gerund can perfectly serve as that subject. Think about it. Swimming is great for your health here. Swimming is the subject, the thing that is great. Or eating vegetables is important. Eating vegetables functions as the subject. It's crucial to use that gerund form or an equivalent structure. A very common oversight for learners is to omit the subject when they mean to talk about an action conceptually, leading to phrases like, is good to read books, which just isn't grammatically complete in English. And this leads us directly to some common errors we should look at.
Right. Let's really look at those direct comparisons, because these are places where many learners, even advanced ones, can stumble pretty easily. First, that will versus going to confusion we just touched upon, the common error. Saying, I will start to exercise when you really mean, I'm going to start exercising.
Let's really unpack the why here again, just to nail it down. As we discussed, will often suggests spontaneity or prediction, right? Like, I think I will go to the store later today if I have time. It's kind of an on-the-spot decision or something less definite. But for a pre-planned intention, especially for something as deliberate and often challenging as starting a new habit, going to conveys that you've thought about it, you've made a decision, there's a degree of commitment there. Imagine you're standing at a cafe counter and suddenly decide, you know what, I will get a coffee. That's spontaneous, fine. But if you've been consistently drinking too much coffee and decided to reduce your caffeine intake as a planned change, you wouldn't usually say, I will start drinking less coffee next week. You'd say, I'm going to start drinking less coffee next week. That phrasing implies a planned habit change, perhaps involving switching to tea or decaf. It's about expressing intention derived from a prior decision, not a spur-of-the-moment choice. Think of going to as implying, I have a plan to. It makes your habit goals sound more concrete and achievable because you've already invested that mental energy into the decision.
That makes so much sense, and it really does change the tone of the commitment, doesn't it? Much more solid. And the second common error, which is incredibly frequent, I hear this a lot, is good to read books versus the correct options. Reading books is good, or it's good to read books.
Again, this boils down to a fundamental, basically non-negotiable rule of English grammar. A sentence almost always needs a subject. Is good to read books is missing that crucial component. It feels incomplete. When you use reading, the gerund, as the subject, you're treating the action itself, the act of reading, as the noun, as the thing that is good. So reading books is good for your mind, or reading books is a relaxing activity. Here, reading books is the subject performing the action or being described. Alternatively, you can use the dummy pronoun it, as in, it's good to read books. Here, it acts as a placeholder subject, but it refers generally to the activity of reading. It's an abstract it that refers to the whole situation or concept. Both reading books is good and it's good to read books are perfectly correct and sound natural, but they fulfill that essential subject requirement differently. So remember, you wouldn't say, is great for your health to swim. That just sounds wrong. You'd say, swimming is great for your health, or it's great for your health to swim. This is a very common point of confusion for learners, but once you really grasp that English almost always needs that subject slot filled, it becomes much clearer, and you'll start sounding much more natural automatically.
That's a brilliant breakdown. So many learners will benefit from nailing that distinction. Okay, Now let's power up our language even further by diving deep into phrasal verbs. You mentioned these earlier, and they are incredibly important because they often carry more action, more nuance, and just a natural conversational feel than their single-word equivalents. They're pretty much indispensable for sounding like a native speaker, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Indispensable is the right word. The source material highlights this beautifully by saying they convey deeper meaning and naturalness. And it's so true. Think about it. Saying, I want to reduce my sugar intake is grammatically correct, sure, but it sounds a little stiff, maybe a bit formal, almost clinical sometimes. But saying, I want to cut down on sugar, well, that sounds much more like a real person having a real conversation about a daily decision, a personal effort. That phrasal verb, cut down on, conveys a sense of personal effort and process in a very colloquial, everyday way. Similarly, I will maintain this routine is quite formal, whereas I will stick to this routine transmits a feeling of determination and acknowledges a personal challenge in a much more vivid, relatable way. Phrasal verbs truly convey a sense of process and a personal journey, making your speech more vivid and relatable. Imagine the difference between I need to resume my gym schedule, sounds a bit technical, impersonal, versus I need to get back on track with the gym. That second one evokes a whole story of having stopped and now trying to pick it up again. They just add color and dynamism.
I love how they add that layer of human experience and effort. Okay, let's look at some of these essential phrasal verbs in action, particularly those super common in habit discussions. First, to stick to. This means to maintain something, to remain loyal to it, or maybe not to give up on it despite difficulty. For example, the hardest part is sticking to the diet on the weekends. We've all felt that, right? Or it's tough to stick to my meditation practice when I'm traveling. It really captures that challenge of consistency we talked about.
Indeed, it encapsulates the very real struggle of resisting temptation and staying disciplined, especially when external circumstances make it difficult. It really highlights perseverance. You could also say, I'm trying to stick to a new budget, or she's struggling to stick to her promise. It implies that need for discipline against external pressures or internal temptations.
Okay, next up, to give up. This means to desist, to quit entirely, or maybe to surrender. For example, I tried waking up at 5 a.m. for a month, but honestly, I gave up after a week. It was just too hard for me. Or I almost gave up on learning guitar, but then I found a new teacher who made it fun.
Yeah, giving up is a common, and sometimes even necessary, part of the habit-building journey, let's be honest. Sometimes a habit just isn't a good fit, or maybe the timing is completely wrong. It's important to have the language to acknowledge that without excessive guilt. Many people give up because they set totally unrealistic expectations, or they don't account for setbacks properly. But having the language to say, I gave up on this attempt, rather than I gave up forever, allows for a mental reframe. It enables you to try again later, maybe with a different approach. You can also give up things like unhealthy foods. I've decided to give up sugar completely. That's a big commitment.
Exactly. It's not always a permanent state. Then, to cut down on, which means to reduce the amount or consumption of something. Like the example, my doctor told me I need to cut down on salt for my blood pressure. Very common advice. You can cut down on so many things. Screen time, processed food, caffeine, maybe spending on non-essentials. It implies a conscious effort to moderate, not necessarily eliminate entirely.
Yes, it's incredibly versatile and widely applicable to any kind of reduction in consumption or usage. Like, I'm trying to cut down on my commute time by taking a different route, or we need to cut down on waste. It implies a controlled, intentional reduction, often for health or efficiency benefits. It's definitely less drastic than give up.
And a very common one for fitness, to work out. This one specifically means to exercise physically, often in a structured way, like going to the gym or doing a specific routine. I try to work out 3 times a week to stay fit. That's a typical goal. Or asking someone, did you work out this morning?
Totally. While workout can have other meanings, like to work out a problem or things worked out fine in the end. In the context of habits and personal goals, its primary and most common meaning is physical exercise. It's a very natural and ubiquitous way to talk about going to the gym, doing yoga, running, or engaging in any kind of physical activity for fitness. It's much more common and natural sounding than saying, I do physical exercise.
Definitely. And let's add just a few more to really broaden your toolkit while we're here. How about to keep up with? This means to maintain the same pace or level of progress as before, or maybe just to not fall behind schedule. Like, it's hard to keep up with my reading goal when I'm so busy at work, or I'm trying to keep up with the latest health trends, meaning stay informed.
That's an excellent one. It directly speaks to that challenge of continuity and staying current. And on the flip side of that, we have to fall behind, meaning to fail to maintain a required pace or level of progress. I've fallen behind on my daily journaling this week, but I'm determined to catch up this weekend. Or she fell behind on her study schedule because she got sick. It just acknowledges a lapse, a delay.
Perfect contrast there, and for those times, you need a completely fresh start.
Yeah.
To start over.
Mm.
This means to begin something again right from the beginning, especially after a failure or maybe a long interruption. My diet wasn't going well at all, so I decided to just forget last week and start over on Monday. Or, after a long break from playing, I had to basically start over with my piano practice.
That phrase really embodies resilience, doesn't it? The willingness to reset. And then there's a gentler one, to ease into, which means to gradually begin something or to become accustomed to something slowly, not jumping in head first. Instead of trying to meditate for an hour right away, I'm going to ease into it with just 5 minutes a day. This is actually great advice for habit building in general, incidentally, and the language perfectly reflects that gradual, sustainable approach.
All these phrasal verbs add so much texture and realism. Okay. Now, knowing all these words and grammar structures is fantastic, absolutely essential. But what really makes conversations flow naturally is knowing those ready-made phrases. These are like building blocks that you can just plug into your dialogue, allowing you to express complex ideas quickly and smoothly without having to construct everything from scratch.
Exactly. These are the phrases that make you sound truly fluent, not just grammatically correct. They carry social and emotional weight, too, allowing for more authentic interaction.
All right, first scenario. Declaring a new habit or an intention, you might say, I've decided to start, followed by an ing verb. For instance, I've decided to start journaling every night before bed. This phrase implies a clear decision has been made, a sense of finality in the planning phase, and a real commitment.
This one conveys a strong sense of personal agency. It's not just a vague wish, it's a stated commitment. Or if it's a more formal or ambitious goal, maybe one that's part of a bigger plan, like a yearly resolution, you could say, my main goal for this year is to, followed by a base verb, like my main goal for this year is to read 20 books, or my main goal is to complete a marathon. This sets a clear, often measurable objective.
And for something that's an ongoing effort, where you haven't quite mastered it yet, which, let's be honest, is often the case with new habits, I'm working on. Plus, an in verb is absolutely perfect. I'm working on being more consistent with my exercise routine. Or I'm working on waking up earlier every day, but it's tough. This acknowledges the effort, the journey, and the fact that it's a process, not some finished product. It allows for honesty about the challenge without implying failure.
And it fosters that self-compassion, which is so vital in habit building. It implies, look, I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm actively engaged in the process. Really useful. Now, what about when you want to talk about your progress, or equally important, your difficulties? How do we phrase those?
Well, to talk about progress, you can use a positive and encouraging phrase like, I'm making good progress with. For example, I'm making good progress with my goal of drinking more water. Small win. Or, I'm making good progress with my new meditation practice. It's starting to feel easier. This is a great way to celebrate those small wins, even if the habit isn't fully established yet. And it definitely reinforces positive behavior.
Absolutely. Acknowledging those small wins is vital for motivation and maintaining momentum. Creates a positive feedback loop in your brain. But let's be realistic. Difficulties happen frequently. We need language for that too.
They certainly do. So if you're struggling, being honest about it is crucial, both for yourself and in conversation. You can say, I'm struggling to, or maybe I find it hard to. For example, I'm struggling to stick to my study schedule when I have so many distractions around, or I find it hard to resist unhealthy snacks, especially when I'm stressed. This shows honesty and vulnerability, which is so important in real conversations and frankly for seeking support if you need it.
And then there's the inevitable setback, which we talked about earlier in terms of vocabulary. Being able to articulate this with resilience is key. You can say, I had a setback, but I'm not giving up. The example provided is so relatable. I ate a lot of cake yesterday, so that was a setback, but I'm not giving up on my healthy eating habit. This phrase underlines a message of perseverance, determination, and self-compassion all at once. It explicitly acknowledges that setbacks are not failures, they're just part of the journey. It's about accepting imperfection and maintaining that underlying commitment.
Exactly. It's about getting back on the horse, or dusting yourself off and trying again, as they say. And speaking of needing a little nudge or providing support, how do we give and receive encouragement in these conversations effectively?
Well, simple, direct encouragement can be immensely powerful and highly motivating. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can say, keep it up. which means continue doing well, or keep going, which basically means don't stop now. These are direct and highly encouraging, often used when someone is already making some progress, or the classic, you can do it. It's a simple phrase, but it conveys such a strong message of belief in the other person's ability and potential, especially if they're feeling discouraged.
I also love this next one because it's just so compassionate and realistic, something we all probably need to hear sometimes. Don't be so hard on yourself. Progress isn't linear. This is perfect for supporting someone who's feeling down or maybe guilt-ridden after a tough moment or a setback. It reminds them that the journey isn't a straight upward line, that it's okay to have off days, and that a single misstep doesn't invalidate all the previous efforts. It fosters a growth mindset.
That phrase is a gem, really is. And to initiate a conversation about someone else's goals or just to check in on their progress. A great way to show genuine interest and offer support is, how's it going with your goal too? Followed by their goal. It opens the door for them to share their progress or challenges without feeling interrogated, fostering an open and supportive dialogue. For instance, hey, how's it going with your goal to learn Spanish? Or how's it going with your goal to run that half marathon? Shows you remembered and you care.
Perfect for fostering connection around shared goals and efforts. Okay, now, to truly consolidate everything we've talked about, the best way is probably to see it in action and then practice speaking ourselves. So, let's go through some real-life dialogues that pull together the vocabulary, grammar, and phrases we've discussed. Make it concrete. First up, the New Year's resolution between Maria and Tom. As Maria guessed, so any New Year's resolutions for you this year, Tom? You always seem to have some interesting goals cooking. As Tom always, oh, absolutely, Maria. This year, my main goal is to get much healthier and truly establish some long-term habits. I'm going to cut down on fast food completely, and I'm also going to try to work out at least 3 times a week, maybe even 4 if I can manage it. I've even signed up for a beginner's gym membership, so I'm committed.
Okay, notice how Tom immediately uses going to for his solid plans. I'm going to cut down on, I'm going to try to work out. This emphasizes his pre-planned intention to start these new habits. He doesn't say, I will cut down on, because that would sound more like a spur-of-the-moment wish. He's already made a decision, he's invested in it, the gym membership, and he's conveying that concrete commitment. And he's naturally using cut down on and work out, those great phrasal verbs we covered.
As Maria. That's a fantastic goal, Tom, and so specific. I'm working on something quite similar, but perhaps a bit more introspective, I guess. I've decided to start meditating daily. It's something I've wanted to do for ages for stress relief. I'm struggling to be consistent, though, especially when my mornings are just chaotic.
See, Maria uses I'm working on, which is perfect for an ongoing effort where she hasn't quite mastered it yet, acknowledging it's a process. And she follows up with I've decided to start, showing her clear decision has been made. Then she honestly expresses a very common difficulty. I'm struggling to be consistent. This sets up a very relatable scenario right away.
As Tom, oh, I completely hear you on the consistency part. Sticking to a new habit is often the hardest part, isn't it? That initial burst of motivation fades, and it's really all about just showing up day after day. But you can definitely do it, Maria. What about setting a really small, achievable goal for consistency, like just 5 minutes? How's it going so far with your meditation anyway?
Tom immediately shows empathy by echoing her struggle with sticking to a new habit is often the hardest part, using that key phrasal verb naturally. He then offers direct encouragement, you can definitely do it, and provides a practical tip, suggesting a smaller goal, which is a classic strategy for habit formation. Then he uses that great checking in phrase, how's it going with, to genuinely inquire about her progress, keeping the supportive conversation flowing.
As Maria. You know, that's exactly what I needed to hear today, actually. Today, I actually managed to do it for 3 days in a row, even with the morning rush. It's only 5 minutes each time, like you suggested, but for me, that feels like a significant milestone, and I'm really proud of that progress.
And she correctly identifies her achievement as a significant milestone, showing an understanding that progress comes in increments, which is such a key attitude for habit building. It's not all or nothing. And she reinforces the idea of progress even in small steps, which is absolutely vital for maintaining motivation long term.
As Tom. 3 days in a row. That's awesome, Maria. That's excellent consistency right there. Seriously, keep it up. Remember, consistency is far more powerful than intensity in the long run. I'm really impressed.
Tom reinforces her success, uses consistency again as a key concept, and offers strong, simple encouragement with keep it up. It's short, sweet, and really powerful. This whole dialogue shows a natural exchange about goals, struggles, and encouragement, incorporating several of our target phrases and concepts beautifully.
It really does. It flows nicely. Now let's move to our second dialogue, dealing with a setback between Ben and Anna. This one gets into the realistic struggles that inevitably arise when we're trying to change. As Ben says, "Ugh, Anna, I feel so disappointed in myself. I had such good intentions this week for my healthy eating, but I totally skipped my meal prep on Sunday and, well, I ended up eating fast food pretty much all week. I haven't even worked out once."
Okay, Ben starts by expressing a very common feeling after a setback: disappointment and self-blame. Very relatable. He clearly states the challenge using phrases that describe his lapse: skipped my meal prep, eating fast food all week, and haven't worked out once. This shows honesty about his struggles.
Hey, Ben, listen, don't be so hard on yourself. You had a really stressful and demanding week at work, didn't you? I remember you saying. Sometimes life just gets in the way, you know? It's just a small setback. It's not the end of your healthy eating journey.
Anna immediately uses that wonderful compassionate phrase, "Don't be so hard on yourself." This is so crucial for empathy. She contextualizes his difficulty, stressful week, and immediately reframes the perceived failure by calling it just a small setback, which is vital for not letting a minor slip derail the whole effort and for fostering that essential self-compassion.
As Ben, "I know, but I feel like I've lost all my motivation now. I was doing so well last month, tracking my food and exercising regularly, and now it just feels like I'm completely back at square one. I just don't feel like starting over again."
Ben identifies a common consequence of setbacks, that profound loss of motivation, feeling like he's back at square one. Very common feeling. He also uses starting over, expressing his reluctance and fatigue. This is a very real and understandable experience for anyone building habits, and it's important to be able to articulate that feeling honestly.
As Anna, "That's totally normal, Ben. Honestly, everyone experiences that feeling sometimes. The important thing isn't to be perfect, nobody is, but to just get back on track. A setback is just a detour, right? It's not a dead end. Hey, why don't we go for a brisk walk together this afternoon just to get moving again? No pressure for a full workout or anything. Sometimes just easing into it is the best way to regain that momentum."
Anna normalizes his feeling. That's totally normal, which is so important for empathy and for helping someone move past guilt. Then she uses the key phrasal verb, get back on track, which is central to recovering from a setback, implying a return to a positive path. She offers a concrete, manageable step, go for a walk, as a way to restart momentum, showing practical support, not just words. And she introduces easing into it, another great phrasal verb for that gradual approach.
Guess, Ben, you really think so? I just feel so discouraged right now. But you're right. I don't want to give up on my goal of feeling healthy. That's still important to me.
Ben expresses his lingering doubt and discouragement, which is natural, but also voices his underlying desire not to give up. He's still committed deep down, even if he feels overwhelmed at the moment. This shows the internal conflict people often face.
As Anna, I absolutely think so. You're definitely not giving up, Ben. You're just adjusting to life's curveballs. Remember, progress isn't linear. It has ups and downs, twists and turns. That walk is a great way to start again. Just get some fresh air and clear your head. We'll just focus on that one small step, and honestly, you'll be back on track before you know it. Just keep moving forward, even if it's slowly at first.
Anna directly refutes his fear of giving up, reframing the situation again as just adjusting to life's realities. So helpful. She reinforces that compassionate truth that progress isn't linear, which is such a powerful message for anyone on a habit journey, emphasizing that dips are normal, expected even. And she reiterates the actionable step, reinforcing how simple it can be to restart. This entire exchange really highlights how language supports positive coping mechanisms, resilience, and a realistic view of personal growth.
These dialogues really bring it all to life, don't they? They show how these words and phrases come together in authentic, supportive conversations that we might actually have. And to make sure you sound as natural and confident as possible when you use them, we have a quick Academia da Pronuncia, our pronunciation focus. Because correct pronunciation makes your speech clearer, more confident, and it just helps you be understood effortlessly. Let's go through a few key words from our discussion today. Okay, first, habit. That initial H is aspirated. What does that mean? It means you release a little puff of air when you say it, almost like you're gently fogging up a mirror with your breath. Say H a bit. Not a bit, but H a bit. Feel the air.
Yeah, many learners from languages without this aspirated H sound might struggle with it initially or drop it. So really focus on pushing that little bit of breath out at the beginning. It's a subtle sound, but really important for clarity in English. Try practicing other H words like heavy, hope, happy to get the feel of it. H a bit.
Good tip. Next, discipline. The stress, the emphasis is clearly on the first syllable. DI sideline. Make that first syllable stand out. DI sideline.
Putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable can make a word sound quite unfamiliar or even unintelligible to a native speaker, even if the individual sounds themselves are correct. It disrupts the rhythm. So really punch that DI. Think of other words with first syllable stress like different or diamond, DI sideline.
Got it. Then motivation. This is a classic example of common American English pronunciation. The T often has a soft D sound or a quick flap sound when it falls between two vowel sounds like it does here. So it sounds more like motivation or motivation with a very quick tap rather than a hard aspirated T sound like in top.
Exactly. This is a very common feature in American English, sometimes called a flapped T or tapped T. Think of other words like water, often sounding like water, or city sounding like city. It's not lazy speech, it's just a standard pronunciation feature. Listening closely to native speakers and trying to imitate that soft D or quick tap for the T in these positions can make a huge difference in how natural you sound. Motivation.
Okay, consistency. The stress here is on the second syllable. Consistency. Feel that emphasis land right on sis. Consistency.
Right. Again, listen for where the natural emphasis falls in the flow of the word. Consistency flows much better and sounds much more natural than, say, consistency or consistency. This stress pattern is common in many English words ending in consistency or hensency, so practicing this one helps with others too. Consistency.
And finally, goal. This one has a long O sound, like the vowel sound in go or boat or home. It's not a short O sound like in got or hot. Say ju, nice and long.
Yeah, don't shorten that vowel sound. Make it a full, rich O sound. G-O-A-L. Practice these words by repeating them out loud several times, maybe record yourself, focusing on the aspiration, the stress patterns, and the vowel sounds until they feel natural and effortless. Consistent practice with pronunciation is just like consistent practice with a new habit. It builds fluency and confidence over time.
Absolutely. So to quickly recap everything we've explored today, we've talked about using the simple present for your established regular routines, the things you just do. We covered that super useful going to tone structure for those new intentions and pre-planned habit changes, signaling commitment. And we looked at how gerunds as subjects, exercising is, can elegantly express the impact or benefit of an action. We've also highlighted the incredible importance of phrasal verbs for natural, vivid communication. Remember how they add that layer of human process and personal journey. Things like stick to, cut down on, get back on track. And finally, we've armed you with essential phrases for declaring habits, discussing progress and difficulties honestly, and encouraging others and yourself on their habit-building paths.
And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, remember what we said right at the very beginning and what Maria and Anna demonstrated so well in our dialogues. Building habits and learning a language. Well, they both fundamentally require consistency, patience, and perhaps most importantly, a good dose of self-compassion. Each day is truly a new opportunity to try again, to pick up where you left off, maybe adjust your approach. So don't be discouraged by those inevitable setbacks in your language learning journey or in your personal habit building. They're not failures. They're simply part of the ongoing dynamic process of growth. Try to embrace them as learning opportunities. What can you learn from this?
And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe something to mull over until next time. How might consciously choosing and using these precise English phrases about habits actually influence your success in building them? Does the language we use to describe our efforts, our challenges, our struggles, and our aspirations actually shape our reality and strengthen our determination? Perhaps thinking about your habits in these specific linguistic terms using "I'm working on" instead of feeling like a failure, or framing something as a setback instead of the end of the world can make them feel more concrete, more manageable, or even more achievable. Definitely something to ponder. And that's our topic for today. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to explore the other videos on our channel to continue your English practice.